Going to Wrigley Field was a huge, unforgettable deal that impacted my life.
Well, I think the Cubs winning based upon the gap was one of the biggest championships that have happened in any American sport in a really long time.
The first day that they introduced me, I said, baseball matters on the north side of Chicago. It's one of the, I love baseball and I love fan bases where it's important.
Well, I always hated the idea of the Cubs as lovable losers because I don't think there's anything lovable about putting an inferior product in front of baseball fans.
It would be the highlight of my career to see that happen and to get a chance to call it. And it didn't disappoint.
I auditioned for the new kid. His name was Billy Crystal. I don't know whatever happened. But I'm on the Chad and Ryan show.
Welcome to Friendly Confines, Extra Innings with Chad Gordon and Ryan Lieber.
Come one, come all.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Rhino, I love this whole idea. Like every time a game ends, we just do a show. Maybe we do this nightly. Maybe every single time the Cubs, we're the post-game show.
We're the new post-game show of the Chicago Cubs. Yeah, I like it. How you doing, everybody? He's Chad Gordon. I'm Ryan Lieber. Welcome to the Extra Innings edition of the Friendly Confines. And Chad, what a night to be doing the game. Probably the biggest game of the year so far. Cubs just recording a 7-3 victory over the Washington Nationals. But the big story, of course, and we're going to get into it later in the show, but the return of Jon Lester, his first start back at Wrigley Field since he left for the Washington Nationals this offseason. An emotional night, a huge night for not just Jon Lester, but Cubs fans, this organization, because as you and I have said multiple times on this show, Jon Lester is by far and away the most impactful and important free agent signing that this franchise has ever had. And he ultimately was one of the key reasons why this team won a World Series. And tonight, he came back, but on the losing end.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about so many different things. We're gonna talk about like just the meddling offense back to 500. Talk about some bright spots with Kyle Hendricks. Obviously, break down a little bit about today's game and some big news with the Cubs' new PA announcer and preview our podcast later on this week. We've got Alex Cohen, the voice of the AAA Iowa Cubs. Had a really fun interview with him today. It's the second time on the show. We've got a little clip from him to share about some of his aspirations. But before we even dive into the show, Ryan, I mean, what an incredible night. I listened to it from start to finish. As you know, I'm a Pat Hughes guy, and both Pat and JD remarked often during this game that they'd not seen this energy, this emotion, this sort of reactions from the fans. I mean, there are incrementally more people in the COVID section, in the very small section in deep center field, but we haven't really raised capacity, so it wasn't because more fans were in the crowd. It was because of the moment. And did you have a chance to see the pregame presentation? They had an incredibly fun pregame presentation honoring Kyle Schwarber ahead of time with the video tribute, and then they gave him the number 12 from the scoreboard. Did you have a chance to see that?
I have not seen it yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing it once I get the chance.
Incredible. And it just gave me goosebumps because it made me just think, and I posted it on our Cubs Friendly Confines page, that, there will never – it's like a Disney movie that could not get greenlit because it's just so farcical. There's no way it would happen from if you look at Kyle Schwarber's postseason in 2015 and take him through to the World Series, knowing that he only played a handful of games. What he did was legendary, and the video tribute was incredible. I had friends texting me saying, "I'm not crying, you're crying." I mean, it was really emotional for him. Obviously, Jon Lester, every time he took the field, incredible moments. Here's Schwarber's first at bat. I love it because Willie just, gave him a big hug initially, then just stood in front of the plate and let the cheers and the applause. It's just sad that it's not a full stadium because the house would have been brought down, and he just had an absolutely and let's be honest, he had quite a moment today in the game, but pregame, the fans really were out here. This was, as a season ticket holder, this was the hottest ticket so far this year. This was a hotter ticket than opening day because of John, because of Kyle.
Yeah, it's funny because we all talk about John Lester and obviously his return, but kind of getting lost in the shuffle is the fact that Kyle Schwarber returned. And of course, as you mentioned, he hit a home run tonight. So yeah, lots to go around. Why didn't Starlin Castro get the same ovation though, Chad? That's my question.
That's a silly question. Starlin's been gone for a long, 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 long time. He wasn't here.
What?
He didn't play in the postseason in 15, buddy. He's been gone for a while.
I know, but he had to put up with all the crap years. He should have gotten an ovation just for putting up with all the crap years.
And just so you know, I gave an ovation in 15 and 16, so don't worry about it. He got his ovation. Right. It's when it's due. But Kai, I mean, you say it was lost in the shuffle as a it wasn't. I don't want to put kind of knock you to say it was not lost in the shuffle for me and for a lot of my friends and people looking for tickets. Kyle coming back was a really big deal. Obviously, with John starting, it's emotional because that's our guy. I mean, that, as you said, the biggest free agent signing in Cubs history, the guy that really just put the Cubs on the map. Anthony Rizzo today on his Instagram account had this beautiful photo. Again, put it on the Cubs Friendly Confines Facebook page earlier. I mean, John and Anthony look like they're 18, like 23 and 18 years old. They look so young. And Anthony Rizzo basically saying, you know what, welcome back. I'm going to paraphrase, but you are such an important part of my life. The things you've done for me, helping him during his time with cancer, because they're both cancer survivors. I loved it that Anthony showed up, parked in the players' lots, and walked out wearing a John Lester Cubs jersey. And then John Lester came to the ballpark, parked in the Cubs players lot, and then went into the stadium. I don't know if you saw that.
That's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get started, Chad. Let us start in the 10th inning. And with the victory, the Cubs now at 500. They are 20-20 after this win. We've talked about it before. This team seems to kind of go in peaks and valleys right now. But is this ultimately the type of team we're going to see? A team that is going to be hovering around 500? Or do you see this ball club being able to make that leap and potentially win more games so they're no longer kind of hovering, and this is a team that maybe is going to contend for the NL Central?
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. Right now, as we record, right now as we're live, the Cubs are 2.5 games back from the Cardinals, who have just got decimated by the Padres, a very good Padre team. Milwaukee's just a game over 500. This whole division, there's really no team that's really out of it. The Pirates, who've had their way a bit with the Cubs a lot, are only 5.5 games out. This Washington series, this 4-game set, couldn't have come at a better time, because if the Cubs emotionally, as we saw tonight, could get started and really start firing on all cylinders, there's a chance they could go on a bit of a run. But you're right. The way you set up this piece is, this is a team that's meddling. This is a team that's playing 500 ball, and they're showing it. What gives me a little bit of hope is they actually now have a positive run differential. That's a positive. That could, that means they've had some licks there, but they're actually playing well with teams and keeping it close. We talked about it on last week's podcast that we record on Wednesday, and we'll be recording another one this Wednesday. The Cubs are horrible on the road, and we still don't really know why, and thankfully they're back home right now, but they're 6-12 on the road. They're 14-8 now at home, and that is only going to be a positive if they can continue to keep this emotional momentum from this Monday night game and carry it over the next 3 against a Washington team that is 5 games under 500 and not really playing very well, not looking like they're contenders in any way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a team that right now has had an opportunity to play Detroit, who's was in last place in their division prior to the Minnesota Twins losing another game, but one of the worst teams in the American League. And now they're playing the Nats, which shockingly, I didn't think the Nats would be playing as poorly as they are, but they are next to Colorado, arguably, and Pittsburgh, arguably the worst team in the National League. So I feel like that the Cubs are in a stretch right now where they need to take advantage. They took 2 or 3 from Detroit. They have the 4-game set now with Washington at home, as you mentioned. The Cubs play great at home. They don't play well on the road. So the Cubs need to take advantage of this series. If they can sweep through this series, yeah, anything goes, right? They'll be 23-20 at that point, and I think they'll have a nice opportunity to overtake Milwaukee for second place. I think then you're starting to look at a team that's starting to feel more comfortable and more confident in what they're able to do. So again, it's all about winning the games you're supposed to win, and these are winnable games. And it's funny you say that, because you're looking at a ball club in Washington that tonight they threw John Lester. they're going to see Max Scherzer in this series. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball still. So the Cubs need to take advantage of that. They're not going to be easy, but at the same time, Washington's struggling, and so the Cubs have to take full advantage of that. So hopefully we'll be able to see them kind of inch up a little bit more in the NL Central after this series.
Yeah, you talk about sweeping. I'm at the stage right now. If this ship can get righted and this team can just start winning series, so 3 out of 4, that I think is where we want to see this team go and bring in some momentum to the weekend. So let's move on to the 11th inning, and we talk about up and down, and we talk about the good and the bad and the Jekyll and the Hyde. We could be talking about Kyle Hendricks, who earned his 3rd win to improve to 3-4. On Sunday, as you shared earlier with the Cubs series win against the Tigers, he looked really good through 8 innings, threw 1 run ball, gave up 8 hits, and struck out 8. Ryan, what do you think? Is this the return that we've been looking for with Kyle Hendricks?
It's a good start. There were a couple of things that I liked that I took away from this game, Chad. First of all, Chad, as we know, Kyle Hendricks struggles on the road. He's not a pitcher who plays or pitches well away from Wrigley Field, but he looked like the guy that we have grown accustomed to. He was sharp. He threw nearly a complete game. He only allowed 1 run. He had 8 strikeouts. This was very good to see. I was encouraged by this start from Kyle Hendricks. I'm hoping that he starts to warm up a little bit more with, the weather getting a little bit warmer in the Midwest for that matter. So hopefully we start to see that, because the Cubs are going to need Kyle Hendricks to have a good year if this team is going to have any shot of contending in the division and having a chance to make the postseason. So for me, I liked what I saw from him. He was throwing the ball well. He was, keeping the Detroit hitters kind of off guard and off their feet. And I know that this Detroit lineup is not a gangbuster by any means, but they're still professional baseball players and they're still major league hitters. And so it was encouraging to see. And I hope we can, start to see a trend in Kyle's game. What about you?
Well, the Hendricks story and what you talked about, the pitching rotation, just knowing the 12th inning, we're going to be breaking down a lot more from this Monday night game against the Nationals. But, Hendricks is necessary. He's the number 1. He's the ace. Now, while tonight's game looked good with Albert Alzolay, even though I'm not happy with the quick hook, I'd like to see him kind of have to fight through the 5th inning. I really think they're trying to protect him in a positive way. Kyle Hendricks has to get his form in order, because if he is a sub 500 pitcher that looks like right now a 3-4 instead of the ace, that's going to be struggling, because Jake Arrieta is only going to get us so far unless he gets a major resurgence. He's going to be steady. That's what this team needs out of Jake, is steadiness. And, we talked about Davies, the fact that he's starting to showing something in a very positive way. But if Kyle Hendricks is not your ace this year, if he is not the guy on the mound that every 5th start you assume he's going to eat up a ton of innings and he's going to just spray around a lot of ground balls versus getting beat up, then this team is going to be in a lot of trouble. Kyle did have a really good start on Sunday, but he's coming off a really, really rough stretch, allowing 4 more runs in 3 of his last 5 starts prior to Sunday. But it really was the best start for him of the year. His ERA is over 5, and that would be a career worst from him. And what do I like to say, Ryan? Averages are averages for a reason. And so my expectation is Kyle Hendricks is going to continue to bring his statistical categories down, because he is not at that point in his career, the way he throws, the finesse, hitting his mark, where his arm is going to be gassed out. He's not a spin rate guy. He is a control and command guy. And that should work out, unless, of course, somebody has just figured out what's going on with Kyle Hendricks and he's tipping his pitching, as somebody was saying earlier in the year, as reports were sharing. So positive for Kyle. It'll be good to see if that maintains here into the weekend.
All right, so let us now move into the 12th inning, Chad. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, Jon Lester making his return to Wrigley. And we should mention, as well as we did in the beginning of the show and we watched his first at bat, Kyle Schwarber also making his return to the friendly confines after signing in the offseason with the Washington Nationals. So Lester goes 5 1/3, gives up 8 hits, 5 earned runs, and 4 strikeouts. You got to think it was an extremely emotional night for Lester. I honestly thought, I have to be honest, I was on our good friend Lante's radio show on ESPN in Champaign earlier this evening, previewing the game. I kind of thought Lester was going to go out and actually shut down the Cubs. And maybe I overestimated how amped up he was going to be and nervous he was going to be, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what happened. He, clearly showed some nerves, and I'm sure was very emotional, of course, pitching in this game against his old team. So what do you make of Lester's return, Chad? And what do you make of Schwarber's return as we start the 12th inning?
Well, I mean, for Lester, I saw a lot of John Lester from 2020. He gave up a lot of long balls last year. He wasn't the steady force. I mean, he is a legend. I am taking nothing away from John Lester and what he brought to the Chicago Cubs franchise. But at some point, I mean, as a fan, you don't have to do this, but I will give a little bit of credit to the front office that they made the decision that it wasn't right to bring him back for whatever reason they needed to bring him back, and maybe him being at the Nationals will give him some fresh blood and some fresh focus. But right now he's on a cellar dwelling team, and that is probably going to drive him crazy right now. And would he fit well on this team? Yeah, he'd fit well as a Jake Arrieta type sort of player. And so, the tale of the tape for me and the story of the night is Cubs front office might have got this right, at least right now, because the Cubs offense had their way with Jake Arrieta and chased him out there in the 6th inning. And Albert Alzolay, pitched well and gave up less. So that's what I'll share about John. Taking nothing away. Again, like I said in the pregame part of this, Kyle Schwarber got that great ovation, and Lester got a great ovation. I wish the stadium had nearly 41,000 people in it so they could get the true ovation. So maybe another time, but there will be Cubs conventions later on where they'll be welcome back. So what I would share is, it's sad that it happened the way it did, but for my friends that were there, for my friends on Twitter on the text chain, it was a wonderful game. It was the hottest ticket of this early season. Kyle Schwarber, are you kidding me? He comes in there, and if you ever want to see like a jilted, ex-girlfriend situation, Kyle Schwarber hitting the 2-run dong, basically saying, "Remember me, boys? Yeah, I'm still Kyle. I'm still Bambino. I'm still the guy that can do that." Made me feel the feels, made me think about what might have been. And again, I hope he's happy in Washington. I hope they're both happy in Washington. I've got no issues with the move. I saw a lot of people talking pregame saying, I'm mad at the Cubs for not bringing, John back, especially, and letting him retire as a Cub. He could still retire as a Cub, but this Cubs front office is not giving up right now. And I think they felt like Lester was the right move. And Kyle Schwarber for Jock Peterson, I think it's a wash, and I think they need to do something to switch it up. But it was a thrill seeing them at Wrigley Field. I wish I was there tonight. I really wish I was there.
Yeah, it was certainly the game to be at so far this season that really had the most amount of clout as we have played through 40 games this year. But look, Lester will always, as you said, he's always going to be a legend. He's always going to have a special place in the hearts of all Cub fans. He was a huge part of why this team won a championship. And I said this on Lon's show, is that if John Lester gets into the Hall of Fame and he had, the choice of what hat he wanted to wear, I certainly believe it would be as a Chicago Cub, and not necessarily as a Boston Red Sox. Only because I think he had more of an impact in Chicago than he did with Boston. And I think he would agree with that, be it that, yes, I know he won a World Series title in Boston, multiple. But I think for him to do what he did with the Cubs, and if you look at his statistics overall, Chad, his best seasons were with the Cubs. Statistically, Lester's numbers with the Cubs were better overall than they were with Boston. So I just think that's how Lester would do it. If you asked him that question, I think he would go in as a Chicago Cub. As far as Schwarber's concerned, again, something we've also talked about, the fact that he will always have that legendary status of being the guy who came back to the World Series after missing the entire regular season and the postseason. And for him to have the postseason that he had in the World Series to help the Cubs get to where they needed to be will never be forgotten. And he, had this sort of cult-like status with the fans. People loved him. Obviously, he was a fan favorite, certainly someone who's going to be missed. But I think in both cases, as you said, the Cubs made the right move. They obviously did not re-sign John, or they bought him out. They didn't, tender Kyle a contract, and he walked as well. I think at the end of the day, they were both moves that needed to be made, and they are now, in Washington. Hopefully they continue to, have success, whatever that may be. And we wish them well, but they'll never be forgotten for what they did with the Cubs and with their tenure.
It's interesting. I mean, you raised that, and I've thought about that as well. I mean, with the 2 titles, he wasn't on the World Series curse-breaking title team for Boston, because that is a more memorable, legendary team. But you're right. The single one with the Cubs might outweigh the 2 with the Red Sox. But let's not second guess this guy. Maybe the Nationals win 2 straight. Maybe the whole, the team of Henry Blanco's on the staff for the Nationals.
Yes.
Maybe Lester and Kyle take them to the promised land 2 straight seasons, and he's wearing a Nationals jersey in Cooperstown. I will share with you, when you said if, there's no if in my mind. John Lester is absolutely going to the Hall of Fame. There's not a question, and I think it's probably even in the first year.
All right, so we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about COVID protocols, and the Cubs also have a new PA announcer. It's a fascinating story.
Huge news. Love it.
Huge news. So we're going to get into all that. We're going to pay some bills. We'll be right back. You're watching the Extra Innings edition of the Friendly Confines. We'll be back after this.
Guys, it's Peggy Kaczynski. I retired early from my 20-something career as a sportscaster, covering the Bulls, the Bears, the Blackhawks, the Cubs, the White Sox, and really every other college and high school team in Chicago. So what do you do after that? Well, you start a podcast. That's what I did with my teenage son, Jason. And the result is The Sportscaster and Her Son. Yes, I'm the baby boomer, a mom. We don't get along. We don't have a lot in common, but we both share a love for sports. And we always have great sports conversation. Even better, our guests in the interviews. So come check us out. We're on Podbean and the Barroom Network, or really wherever you get your audio. The Sportscaster and Her Son podcast. See you there.
Well, we're back, and Rhino, look, I put up the swag. I forgot I wasn't showing it off. You're not wearing the hat, but we do. We have Friendly Confines shirts. We've got hats. We've got hoodies. We've got all the good stuff. My Friendly Confines coffee mug, which I am ticked off that I'm not drinking water, is not here. I got to bring that out for our next week episode, but it's fun stuff. That we've got swag. We're bona fide.
We have merchandise, Chad. You can go to deepdishtees.com for all of your Friendly Confines swag and merch, courtesy of the Barroom Network, which is kind enough to, of course, create this webcast that we do here on Monday nights. Aldo Gandia, who is producing this show, we always appreciate everything he does. But deepdishtees.com, it has all the podcasts that the Barroom Network houses, including the Friendly Confines. And Chad, nothing makes me happier. I have had multiple friends text me photos of them in their Friendly Confines t-shirts and hats that they have now bought to support the show. So if you're a supporter of our podcast, or a supporter of the show, or just the Barroom Network in general, deepdishtees.com. You can go there and check out all the merchandise that we have that you can be a part of and support your favorite podcast. And hopefully it's us. So we appreciate that. We also want to give a shout out to our partners at Golden Rule Entertainment. So let us tell you a little bit about them. They are offering big league opportunities while owning a piece of a minor league style ball club. So for more information, of course, on how you could potentially become an owner of a professional baseball team, go to goldenruleentertainment.com. and join in on how you can be a part of this new ownership group. It's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Love them as a sponsor, and yeah, you're not going to be the majority owner unless you did really well on Powerball this weekend. But you have an opportunity to be a minority owner in minor league sports, and the intention is to actually make some money on it, actually pay some dividends and things like that. But no, I got it. So yeah, so be one of our athletic supporters and buy some of our merch. Please do that. And you say that the Barroom Network's helping us out on this. Right now on Monday nights, all eyes are here. I mean, the Barroom Network's just lucky to have Ryan and Chad, the Ryan and Chad show, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's their honor to be.
Aldo knows. Aldo knows. He loves this. His best part of his and by the way, our producer is a huge White Sox fan, so this is the best part of his week is listen to us knuckleheads talk about the Cubs. So let's move on to what is this? The 13th inning, and this is a little infuriating. This kind of ticks me off, and we're going to talk about it. And you teased it so horribly. You're like, we're going to talk about COVID standards. No, we're going to talk about being ticked off at the Chicago Cubs.
Oh, okay.
We're going to be ticked off because we are. It's ridiculous. It's infuriating, and you don't understand why with everything that's out there. And I guess we can get into a whole situation with anti-vaxxers and other things. But on the day that the Chicago Cubs announced that at their Wrigley Field vaccination site, they vaccinated the exact number of people as the capacity at Wrigley Field at full capacity. The Chicago Cubs organization is still not at the wanted standard by Major League Baseball of 85% of people in the organization vaccinated. Ryan, are you infuriated as I am on this, or am I overreacting and should I just not worry about it?
Yeah, it is kind of frustrating, obviously. I mean, the team on the South Side, the White Sox, are 85% now. About half of Major League Baseball teams are. They don't give an official list, obviously, of who is or who isn't. You kind of just have to watch games and see who's still wearing masks in the dugout. And the Cubs are still one of those teams. And, there are certain players that have been more vocal than others on the Cubs about not taking the vaccine. And I think that it's unfortunate. But look, I have a hard time. I mean, I'm vaccinated. You're vaccinated. I have no problem with that. And both of us have had family members, that have been affected by COVID. And so it hits close to home for us. And whether you are one of those people that don't believe in the vaccine or you do, it is a personal choice. It is something that, everybody has the option to do or not do. But I think what is frustrating, Chad, is that the quicker that a team can get, vaccinated and allow them to have more relaxed rules, it allows it for everyone to enjoy the game as well. And I think the double standard is if you're not going to get 85% of your team vaccinated, what incentive is there for fans to come to your games to get vaccinated and sit in the stands at full capacity if the team that they're cheering for isn't even willing to get to that 85% capacity? So I think that's where the frustration for me sets in, to where you're saying it's a terrible example and it's a hypocritical stance, to tell you the truth, when you're seeing it. It's a personal decision, but at the same time, you're getting paid millions of dollars and you need your fans to be supporting you. Just do what needs to be done, and we can get back to a better society that is normal, and we can live our lives once again. What about you?
This show is better when we disagree, right? When we have different takes, and it's not like, oh yeah, hey, that's a great point, Ryan. Great, but I'm a great point, Ryan. I mean, it really is. It is a personal choice, so can't take that away from anything. I have had very big discussions with people on every side of it. And the news in the last weekend, everything happening with the Yankees, last I heard, it may have increased by now, but 8 people had tested positive, but they were all asymptomatic. And so the headline,
and they met the COVID requirements too. The Yankees were at 85%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they were all asymptomatic. And so when I think about that, it's don't be. I mean, the way I look at that, other people are like, wait a second, what do the vaccines even do if everybody's falling off like flies? But they're not. That's one of the values of getting vaccinated is you could and can and may possibly will get infected, but you won't shed it. So in other words, you won't infect other people, and you won't have symptoms. And so that's ultimately what we want. I saw it from a very personal level from my mother, who's 70 years old, but a young 70 years old, not an old ancient 70-year-old that was on her deathbed, who was in a coma on life support in the ICU, wasn't expected to live. And she is still recovering now. So I think if it hasn't affected you, people aren't taking the precautions as they should. I don't want to take too much longer on this inning because we're probably going to lose some of our listeners and watchers. I'll just say that I would really like to see the people that have the ability. I mean, all these Major League Baseball players could have had the vaccines right away, and some are dragging their feet, and there could be reasons for that. But you're right. I want to see Wrigley Field, nearly 41,000 people. I want to see them jammed into there. And I think it's going to help once everybody does what they can, does their part to help society in general. Not so much always about us, but about the people we walk by on the sidewalks and sit in section 13 when I finally get access to my season tickets one day. Hopefully we're all vaccinated, taking care of each other.
All right, so let us move on now to the 14th inning. And the big news prior to the game today against the Nats is the Cubs have hired a new PA announcer, Chad. So unfortunately, you will not be the next PA announcer for the Cubs. I know you were possibly hoping to hold out hope they would call you, but his name is Jeremiah Paprocki. He is 21 years old. He is a senior at the University of Illinois, Chicago right now, Chad. And he is the first African-American PA announcer for the Chicago Cubs. A historic day for the Chicago Cubs and this decision to hire Jeremiah Paprocki. What do you think?
Good for him. And what a dream. And I was talking with Alex Cohen, our guest for the podcast later on this week, the play-by-play guy for the Iowa Cubs. And I started off by talking to him before we recorded. I am just jealous of a 21-year-old kid from Chicago. I'm just, I mean, talk about the opportunity of a lifetime, talk about the ability. I mean, it's not, he could have the ability to create a name for himself with the Chicago Cubs and a legacy if he holds on to this and does this and he owns this. Like, he could be the guy. Vin Scully started broadcasting games for the Brooklyn Dodgers and retired for the LA Dodgers a couple years ago, and he's ingrained. I'm not saying that he could be Vin Scully, but if everybody knows who Gary Pressey is, right? And so not a lot of people can name the current organist for the Cubs. He's got some time to actually become a legend. Good for him. He's done some great stuff and put himself out there and really embraced this role at UIC while he's still finishing up his schooling, where he's doing PA over there. Again, complete jealousy. I'm in awe. Good on him. I think the Cubs made a bold move, and they made probably the right move. They're not going to want a guy in their mid 40s being the PA guy. I'm old news. It's a young man's game, and but I will say I have like a double or triple his Twitter followers right now. But that's probably going to change by tomorrow morning. So, but I'm just going to leave that right now.
Such a cool story. So as another side note, if you're, keeping score at home, his mother was a parking attendant at Wrigley, and that was how he became a Cub fan. His mom used to take him to games when he was a kid growing up. I mean, as you said, 21 years old, he's still in college, and he can grow in this role. I mean, look, you mentioned Vince Scully. I mean, how about Bob Shepard, who was the longtime PA announcer for the Yankees? Yeah. After he passed away, Derek Jeter still wanted the recording of Bob Shepard announcing him after he would, go to bat, because it was such an amazing sounding, call of when Derek Jeter would come to bat. So again, we haven't heard anything from him. I believe tonight was his first game, correct?
So tonight was his very first game, yeah.
So obviously we weren't able to hear him, but I know you'll be at a game sooner or later, so I'm sure you'll be able to kind of hear how he sounds, and I'm sure you'll get that opportunity. But it's just a great story. You love good stories. And this is for sure one of them.
He's got a great baritone voice. There's video out there of him, and I did get to see video of him announcing that people posted on Twitter. So it's a beautiful thing. Good on him. And I know it's always tough for us to get people from inside the Cubs, but I think we've got to get him on the show, because I can't wait to talk to him and just realize how old we are. and how much life he has ahead of him. So good on him. Can't wait to hear him in the stands, hear his name, his voice ring out. So let's move on to the 15th and final inning. And by the way, everybody watching, so good to have you here. You can comment if you'd like to and let us know how we're doing, and also let us know if you have any ideas on what'll make you keep coming back each and every week. Santiago, thank you so much and appreciate that. And especially everybody's welcome here. I always say I never, and this is so anti-Chicago fan base, but I never hate on another team. I don't enjoy the Cardinals. I don't hate them, but I dislike them. I've never hated the White Sox. Bring whatever team you want to. I just love my team. And that's all there is to it. So thank you for that. All right, so we're going to preview. And here's something I got to say. A lot of people were seeing where this is popping up on their Facebook feed or the Twitter feed, and they're thinking, oh, you're doing your podcast on video now. I'm like, no, this is a separate thing. We still record the 9 innings on Wednesday that we do more of kind of a weekly view. Like today's show's more of a, this is what's going on right now and what's coming out of the weekend. And then obviously the big story tonight, we don't always do a game recap like we kind of did a little bit because it was such a big story. But on Wednesday, we're going to have 9 innings. And a part of that 9 innings, we always do a big interview of the 7th inning stretch, which we'll have some tape for that in just a second. But Rhino, as you look ahead, knowing we're going to be recording the full 9 inning show here on Wednesday, what is the one topic that you're hoping to slot into one of those 9 innings to talk about and debate, you and I?
Well, I think we can talk more about the Lester start and the Schwarber return. And I think we can also discuss, just kind of how this team is trending. Hopefully by the time we record, maybe the Cubs will have won, another couple of games. So, let's see this team trending upwards by the time we record as well.
All right, so we're going to do a real quick snippet, and I love this. And those that have come to find us as viewers, we'd love to have you join us as listeners. So make sure you go to theconfines.com. That's theconfines.com. And up there you can hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts. You can hit subscribe on Spotify. You can listen to us on your phone, your computer, wherever you want to. Fresh content. And one of the things we think we know we do better than any Cubs podcast. Absolutely. Prove me wrong. We get better guests. You see some of them in the open of the show. We had a great guest that's coming up this week. Alex Cohen, the voice of the AAA Iowa Cubs. They just kicked off their season here in the last couple of weeks after not playing any minor league ball last year. Minor league baseball had such a huge change with Major League Baseball taking a bigger role and a lot of teams being disassociated with teams. In his first week, he called a no-hitter. Kind of fun. In his first week, he was on the Marquee Network, the Marquee Start Show. So he talks about some of those things. But I asked him on the show, I said, what is your life goal as a guy that's done 700, 800 minor league games? Where do you see yourself in the future of broadcasting?
If you had a dream scenario, if you had a moment in your career, so we'll talk further down the road, what is that dream? Where can you picture yourself? Where are you at? What are you doing? What are you calling? What do you aspire to?
I mean, right now, obviously say calling games at Wrigley Field. I mean, that is the friendly confines. Just when you think of baseball on a national perspective, when it comes to Major League Baseball, it is 4 places. It is, Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, Dodger Stadium, Wrigley Field. I mean, that's the Mount Rushmore. That's the pantheon of Major League Parks. So, being the AAA voice of the Iowa Cubs, being able to, establish that type of relationship with the organization and calling games up at the big league level for the Cubs is a dream. But I mean, one team says, one team scenario, great. There are 29 other teams that if they give me a call and say, hey, we want you to be the lead broadcaster. You give me the logo, I'll tattoo it on my shoulder. I mean, let's go. Let's do it. It's always just been being a big league broadcaster and being one of the 30 radio broadcasters in baseball. I mean, you asked me a question, what do I prefer? And I obviously love radio broadcasting. That's what I grew up with. I think that I do have a face for radio. So that's a nice link for that. But there's only 30 jobs like this. And having one of those 30 jobs is the dream.
I think Boog gives us a lot of hope because Boog's not a really attractive guy. So I think you don't have to be.
You know what, Boog, if you're watching this, I disagree. I think Boog, he's got that spring honey hair.
He does.
Full flow.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Boog. I'm sorry. You're very attractive.
You're good. Yeah. But no, I think Boog has some good qualities, man. He's got great voice, great hair. Anything from that up, great.
All right, so Boog will never come on our podcast again. But that was Chad, not Ryan. That was Chad. That's
Ryan, you got to toughen up if you're going to be in Chicago. I think Boog's going to be okay on that. I think he's going to be all right. That I didn't call him an attractive man initially. I think he's all right with that. But great conversation with Alec. He's going to be there in the seventh inning. And I don't know if we'll talk a lot about Kyle and John once the podcast comes, because it is a couple days later. But it's going to be fun. I haven't heard the post game, and I haven't heard the tributes, and I haven't heard what they said. So I'm looking forward to hearing their reaction. They've done and said all the right things to honor Cubs Nation. And so it'll be good to hear from that. But you're right. It's how is this team playing in a couple days? This is not a team that I think is ever going to give this fan base any breathing room or any comfort in feeling that it's going to be okay. We got it in hand. I think right till the trade deadline, this is going to be a team that's going to scratch and claw and frustrate and exhilarate, just depending on the night.
Yeah, it's definitely not 2016 anymore. We can say that for certain. All right. So with that is going to wrap things up on this special edition of our Extra Innings Friendly Confines webcast. Our thanks once again to Elda Gandia of the Barroom Network for producing this show, and for Alex Cohen joining us, as of course we will hear more from Alex in our podcast this week. Chad, another good one. I'm enjoying this each and every week with you. I'm glad we get to see each other a little bit and get to kind of dissect the things that are going on in the beginning of the week, and then we get to dive into it a little more in the middle of the week. So stay tuned for more of the Friendly Confines podcast, where you get your podcast. Check it out.
It's so much fun. And Aldo, bring it up. I want everybody to see you. And Aldo's the guy behind the scenes. If you like baseball, Aldo produced before ours the Southside Hitman, who had Ozzie Guillen Jr. on. And so what we're intending to do is make Monday night baseball night, and the Barroom Network. If you haven't checked them out, obviously you know them through the videos like that. But if you're fans of ours who have learned about the Barroom through setups like this, we're excited about all of the different outlets, from Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, everything. It's all Chicago sports radio, but on a podcast and in all the different new media. So, Aldo, so good to have you on here. Are you enjoying this? Is it, as a White Sox fan, do you think we're gonna bust through the White Sox demographic?
Well, I got to tell you, I love the Cubs too. I mean, I grew up. I know. Banks, Santo, Kessinger, Beckert. I grew up in the 60s watching Jack Brickhouse calling the Cubs games, so they hold a special place in my heart. But it's been over the last 10 years I kind of gravitated over to being a White Sox fan. But I still, my childhood dream is to see the Cubs and the White Sox play in a World Series, and it goes 7 games, and it goes into extra innings, and it just never stops. They just keep playing on and on and on until finally the White Sox emerge. But I do love this very much. You guys are two professionals. I love producing shows with guys who know what they're doing. You guys clearly do. And so this is a joy for me to be a part of the Friendly Confines Extra Innings. Great job, guys.
Thanks, Aldo.
Thank you, Aldo.
I love it. And Ryan already said it as well, but for all the viewers tonight, such a pleasure to be in your homes and on your laptops and on your Twitter feeds and all those fun things. We'll be back next week. It's now a habit. After 3 weeks, it's like they say 21 days builds a habit. We're at the 21-day mark right now. I think we should do it 28 days and keep doing it. I'm having a ball. I love this outlet, and it's a lot of fun talking Cubs to you, and knowing we've got a few thousand listeners and viewers tuning in throughout the week, even when they're not listening live. So such a fun show.
It is, and just quickly, I am on Twitter at Ryan D. Lieber. You see below, Chad is at the Chad Gordon. Go to our Facebook page, the Chicago Cubs Friendly Confines Facebook page, and of course, the Barroom Network at Barroom Network is on Twitter, and they also have their own Facebook page as well, the Barroom Network Facebook page, so check it out there. So that is going to wrap things up on this edition of the webcast edition of the Friendly Confines. For Chad, I'm Ryan. We'll talk to you during the week, everybody. Have a good one.